It's Friday, the 9th of June, 2023. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories, 5 minutes. Let's jump into story number 1. The big banks are today warning of rising rates of mortgage stress appearing in the economy, particularly if interest rates stay so high.
Until now, the banks, who are by far the major mortgage lenders, have reported reasonably low default and arrears rates, but cracks are showing. Westpac boss Peter King said the lender is receiving more phone calls to its financial hardship line, and 30-day delinquency rates have started to pick up. Ratings agency Fitch yesterday downgraded its view of Aussie banks to deteriorating from neutral. It's worried about earnings and asset quality. And the Australian Bankers Association boss Anna Bligh said if rates stay high or rise, as many economists expect, then more people will enter into hardship arrangements later this year. As she put it, people can stretch for another month. They can stretch a bit more, but at some point, the rubber band will break.
Yeah, and of course, Sean, this is after the very weak economic growth rate this week and the rise in interest rates.
Yes, the lift in interest rates means the standard variable rate is now somewhere in the high sixes or thereabouts. At the same time, the economy is slowing, not what you really want. The people who are feeling it most are younger home buyers, basically because they haven't repaid as much of their mortgage, or they're less likely to have savings buffers or redraw buffers. In fact, there was an interesting survey out yesterday from PEXA, which is the property data firm. It basically said there's about $123 billion worth of homes along the East Coast, New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, that were paid for using cash last year. That's about 25%, mostly older people, which sort of demonstrates that it's the younger guys who are finding it toughest.
All right, on to story number 2 now. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was joined by Qantas boss Alan Joyce yesterday at Western Sydney Airport to announce that Qantas and Jetstar will be the first airlines to fly out of the new airport in 2026.
Joyce said Western Sydney will one day become the biggest airport on the carrier's network. He said it would boast great efficiency with shorter block times and shorter taxi times, allowing for lower airfares. We hope so. He added that within a year of operation, Qantas and Jetstar will have at least 15 aircraft based at the new airport. Now, Joyce said there's already 2 million trips taken each year from Sydney from people in that region, and that will grow as a result of the new facilities. It'll create about 700 jobs. Great for that area of the world.
Sean, story number 3 is an interesting one. Companies that have women scientists and people who have worked overseas on their boards perform markedly better than those without, according to new research.
More than 80% of companies assessed as top performing had at least one female director, one director who had science and technology expertise, and at least one with international experience, according to a Committee for Economic Development of Australia, CEDA, and University of Technology Sydney report. That compares to just 26% of the weakest firms. CEDA Chief Executive Melinda Cilento said greater diversity is a shortcut to lifting capabilities. Now, roughly 40% of board directors in Australia have financial or legal experience, but only 7% have science or technology experience. On average, the most dynamic companies have 1.6 more directors who are female, 1.8 more directors with science, technology, engineering and mathematics backgrounds, and 3.1 more directors with international experience. That's compared to the bottom performers.
Okay, on to story number 4. Smoke from Canadian bushfires continues to pour into the US East Coast and the Midwest as well, covering major cities in an unhealthy haze, Sean.
The smoke has held up flights at major airports and prompted people to bring out pandemic-era face masks. Canadian officials have asked other countries for additional help fighting more than 400 fires nationwide. Air quality is considered in the unhealthy range in large parts or across large parts of the US. New York was the most polluted major city in the world on Tuesday night. That's according to the IQ Air website. Pollution levels in the city were deemed to be in the unhealthy range and were higher than those in Indian capital Delhi and Iraq's Baghdad. Now, Canadian officials say this is shaping up to be the nation's worst bushfire season ever.
Okay, last one, Sean. Story number 5. Yesterday, we talked about the surprise merger of the Saudi-backed Live Golf and the USA and European PGA Tours. Today, it's about football, as in the round ball variety of football, and the money this time is much, much bigger.
There are reports that Lionel Messi, arguably, very arguably, the greatest footballer of his generation, has turned down $600 million a year from Saudi Arabian interests and instead will play in Inter Miami in the US. Now, that club has influential partners, namely David Beckham, the great English player, and rich corporate backers, namely Adidas and Apple, but it doesn't have the Saudi money. The Saudis have been throwing money at football. They've bought the Newcastle Football Club from the English Premier League. They've attracted Cristiano Ronaldo, arguably the other greatest footballer of his generation. He's getting paid about $300 million a year. The third great player of this generation, at least the Ballon d'Or winner, best player in the world, Karim Benzema, well, he's playing for the Saudis as well. Incredible amount of money being thrown around by Saudi Arabia towards sport.
Yeah, extraordinary, isn't it? There we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Friday, the 9th of June, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough for you, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget as well, the Amazon Echo smart speaker range comes with Alexa built in. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode. You can get yours now at amazon.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.